Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your Monday afternoon. I know it's probably been a busy weekend and busy day with all the work that we've had available. Thank you for being here with us. My name is Veronica. I'm one of Washington Interpreters representatives. These are my coworkers, and they will take the time to introduce themselves.
There she go.
Hey, Liana, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties. I'll get back on here in just a second. You guys can go ahead and start.
We can listen to you really well.
Can you? Okay, because I can't see anything.
Yeah, it's kind of skipping a little, but we can go ahead and proceed while they take care of those technical difficulties. Look, we have more people joining.
Yep.
Introduce yourselves, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Hello, sorry, I was having trouble with that. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here with us. Ms. Elena, and I'm from the trade area.
Elena, I think you got some background noise behind you, perhaps.
No.
Okay, it's gotten better now. So Liana is not here yet. Go ahead, Anastasia, please.
I'm Anastasio, Yakima interpreter, DSHS Medical and Social Services certified, Vice President of Washington Interpreters, and happy to be here today with everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juan Medina Blois. You've seen me here before. Provisional President here at Washington Interpreters, and we have a very special live stream for all of you guys. A lot of confusion, a lot of frustration with our interpreting world, but we're here to answer a few questions and to have an exciting interview. We have here with us Mr. Jeffrey Pollock, and he's our guest. Today, we will be answering many questions, some questions actually about the data breach, his experience with LNI, representing injured workers, and how he got involved into this whole community interpreting for LNI. And so we welcome Mr. Jeffrey Pollock. How are you today?
Wonderful. I want to thank you all for affording me the opportunity to be with you this evening. This is something that's I'm quite passionate about. It's very dear to my heart. I can't thank you guys enough for giving me this opportunity. For starters, I provided Juan yesterday the hour with a bio. We know how. I'm not sure, Juan, to what extent that's available, but if people are wishing to read about me or look me up, how do they access that?
Yes, so we're going to have all of that information during the live stream for people to look you up. We have, though, mass emailed interpreters with all of your information, but shortly I will have a link in the description below your information and in the chat room for people to know where to contact you in Mount Vernon.
Okay, thank you. And so, and just then, since that bio will be out there, just to summarize, I've been practicing workers' comp law as the claimant's attorney for a little over 15 years now. As Juan indicated, out of my office, physical office is in Mount Vernon. That really doesn't mean a whole lot in this day and age. I practice workers' comp. I represent claimants on a statewide basis. So I have clients as far east as Spokane, as far south as Vancouver. Really, when it comes to workers, it really doesn't matter where they are. Albeit the majority of my clients are in the North Puget Sound area. state law, so we're all operating under the same RCWs and WACs and all that. Mount Vernon, as you guys are probably aware, and like Yakima and much of the state, has a wide, extensive community of minority workers, those of course being mostly Hispanic. So over the course of the years, my practices evolved to probably being 80% L&I, and probably 80% of those L&I are Hispanic. My spoken Spanish is un poquito. I'm with a bilingual staff. I'm pretty staff heavy, so we've got at any given time 4 Spanish staff members. One of them has been with me since day one, Carla Munoz, who I just can't say enough about. Once in a while, I'll even have to go to her for an answer to an L&I question. And then the rest of them have been with me for pretty much a long time, except I have a new receptionist. So I have a team. You know, they do 70% of the grunt work, if you will, and then the other 30% is left to me for lawyering. And like I said, it's a passion for minority workers, Hispanic. I'm gonna, when you guys present your questions to me, what I want you to know, and what I can't emphasize enough, is the fact that the 2018 legislation that we're all fully aware of, that brought us to where we are today. You'll have perhaps certain legislators or employer reps or employers, whomever, TPA, third-party administrator groups, all telling you, oh, it took far too long to implement it. Well, the truth is, it was implemented on way too rushed of a basis. Of course, it went, as we all know, it went into effect officially on May 15th, 2021. So you'll have those advocates or opponents of the implementation will say, oh, you know, that it took too long as it was. But when we get talking about the data breach and how this is all played out, what you'll find is that the state of Washington and Labor of Industries, in implementing this new scheduling system, Interpreter Works / language link, I believe they were rushed. They acted with haste. They acted to the detriment of injured workers across the state, not just my clients, but all injured workers. And what I see this is as an attempt on the part of employers and on the part of a number of factions in the rush to implement this system. Obviously, we're dealing with cost-cutting measures. The new system in place, we know, is designed to save L&I and taxpayers tons of money, but it's our minority workers, particularly our Hispanic workers, because that's who, you know, the majority of them are, who are paying the price, suffering the consequences of all of this. And L&I, the state of Washington, well, I don't know if I want to say the taxpayers, but employers or anybody who is in favor of this rushed implementation system, it is to the detriment of injured workers, and that by a system that has so completely and totally done away with the I don't want to say benefits, but done away with the services that were offered under the old system by interpreters. The new system we have in place is designed to minimize minority workers' access to L&I benefits, healthcare, mental health, whatever. It pushes them out. It leaves them by the wayside. And to whatever extent that the state of Washington and employers are saving a buck, it's our injured workers, our minority injured workers, who are losing far more than $1. They're losing. I don't want to sound extreme, but they're losing their lives. If somebody ends up committing suicide as a result of implementation of the system, which I'll tell you is not out of the question, because 15 years of doing this, injured workers develop mental health problems. Half of my clients develop mental health problems as it is due to being in the L&I system due to industrial injuries. If they are deprived of L&I benefits as a result of these cost-cutting measures, we're, like I said, for me to say this could kill minority workers, could result in them taking their own lives, that's not me being extreme.
All
so
right.
That's what I take. From there, I'll turn it over to you guys for Q&A. But I obviously have some pretty strong feelings about all of this. So.
Well, thank you so much for giving such a detailed account of not only what you do for your workers, but how you see this implementation, giving the audience right here a timeline. And you guys, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself so we avoid interference. But what I wanted to say is thank you for giving the audience such a timeline. It's good that people see that while we are leading the charge involved into making L&I accountable for what's happening to our industry when it comes to with interpretation services, it's good that people see that individuals and personalities such as yourself, you are involved in this. You have a stake at this, not only for medical providers, but most importantly, for your patients as well. So, you have pretty much answered the first question that I had for you here. That was how is this new scheduling system affecting your client's care? But in the quality of interpretation, we have emphasized that in the L&I system, you could have new interpreters. We have no problems with new interpreters wanting to come into the field, taking advantage of the benefits of interpreting for L&I, getting paid bi-weekly, but we also are concerned with the continuity of care, and we're also concerned with the experience and the labor involved when helping injured workers with their interpretation needs. It's not just like a robot. So it's really nice to hear from you, your involvement. I guess Anastasio does have a question for you next. Can you go ahead, Anastasio, and take it over right here?
No, you're wrong, Juan. I don't have a question. I have probably 10 questions, but we'll keep it down to one at a time for now. Just because you mentioned the term suicide here, or potential suicide, because of the stress, I guess, injured workers go when they are injured and they lose their job, and they are probably the main breadwinners in their household, and all this accumulates and it ends up affecting them tremendously. The process at with L&I is very cumbersome. I've always said that. Having worked there for some time, I saw that firsthand. Many people sometimes even avoid filing a claim because it's just a headache. But my question to you, sir, is you touched on another subject also with the Hispanic community, if I heard correctly there. And so those two things really stood out to me. I take it personal because I'm Hispanic, I guess, but and the majority of the people that we interpret for, if not all of them, are Spanish speaking. Also, the majority of the interpreters in the state are Spanish, English interpreters, Spanish interpreters. So my question would be, do you believe that our community, Hispanic community, has been disproportionately affected, or can be disproportionately affected by this transition or the implementation of this system?
100%. Absolutely. And just let me give you a couple examples of that. It's going to blow your mind. Today, I'm having a vocational conference, and most of those right now are being conducted telephonically. We're still dealing with some COVID protocols, although we're, I think, seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. So most of these are being conducted telephonically, which means you're using language link to do that, which, by the way, are offshore interpreters. And offshore, I've been to Spain, I've been to South America, I love the people there. Don't get me wrong, I have no problem with those people earning a living. But these offshore interpreters, every vocational conference I have to stop and make sure my You said, are Hispanic workers disproportionately impacted? Well, it turns out in this state, we all know most of those Hispanic workers are Mexican. And I have to stop these offshore interpreters because my clients, primarily of Mexican descent, oftentimes don't understand the Spanish being spoken by these offshore interpreters, okay? And I'm not saying that my clients are necessarily Mixteco. They speak Mexican Spanish, and so right there they're having a difficulty. So in the last 2 weeks, I've had to cancel 5 of my 6 vocational conferences with a VRC, the vocational rehabilitation counselor or vocational rehab provider, 100% on board and agreeing with me that it needs to stop. And then not only that, today this is the one that shocks me. I had one today, an interpreter who I couldn't understand, and she actually says to me, you know what, my English isn't very good. So I'm thinking, what in the HELLL are you doing serving as a bilingual interpreter when your English is so broken that you can barely even say that to me, that, my English isn't very good. So are they disproportionate? That's one example of how they're disproportionately impacted. And 2, like I spoke about earlier, their access to care. Under the previous system, interpreters would follow them from appointment to appointment whenever possible. And in the process of doing so, could educate providers on what happened, at a previous specialty appointment a week ago, say with an ortho or neuro specialist, could advise physical therapists. They would follow these. All that's would follow those provider appointments. All that's out the window now. And scheduling, another way that I think Hispanics are being disproportionately impacted by these changes is the scheduling of mental health, medical, and physical therapy, these type of things, provider appointments. Because historically, even though they weren't charged with doing so, interpreters up until May 15th, for the most part, I think, were doing a service, to everybody, to providers, to injured workers, doing a service that was never required of them or necessarily asked of them, but they were helping with assisting with the scheduling of provider appointments. That's now out the window. My office has taken it upon itself to engage at our own expense the services of an agency. We have somebody who is spending 15 to 20 hours a week at my expense, assisting us with scheduling provider appointments for our Hispanic injured workers until hopefully this new system is gone. But those are just some of the ways they're impacted by it. And then once you're in the provider appointment itself, the quality of interpretation that I'm seeing. Now, I haven't dealt with interpreter works too much yet. Tomorrow is going to be my first in-person VOC meeting at my office. We'll see how that goes. That'll be interpreter works. But I'll tell you what, I'm getting a heck of a lot of complaints from providers, medical providers, about interpreter works not showing up for scheduled appointments. The injured workers arrive. There's so much confusion and chaos at the front desk that they're sent home for an appointment where they come home in the office. They have a card that shows, they were scheduled to see their attending provider such and such date, such and such time. They show up and there's an absentee interpreter and nobody knows what the heck's going on. So it's not just my clients and myself and my office that are experiencing the frustration. I've had numerous vocation providers express the frustration to me, and I've had numerous medical and mental health providers also expressing similar frustrations. Are Hispanics disproportionately feeling the impacts of these changes? Absolutely.
Wow, thank you. Go ahead, Juan.
No, I was just going to say thank you for that. And let's move on to the next question that we have right here, just for time purposes. So I know that one of you girls has the next question. So go ahead, Liana, and feel free to answer. Liana, feel free now to ask the next question for Mr. Pollock, please.
Hi. Well, and I'm sorry, I apologize about the difficulties that I was having earlier today. But yeah, I guess one of the questions is somewhat already answered by you. I guess one of the ones that we had was like, how will the employers pay the price at the end of this? Because now they're, like you said, they're not going to be with the people that they know, that they're used to, or that they're with, especially with these big appointments such as the mental health, which is a very, very crucial appointment. And a lot of people don't feel very comfortable with having, a different every single time. It makes it a lot harder for them to get their care met. So yes, that would be the question.
Okay. Well, and Leanna, I say this respectfully and a little bit jokingly, so don't take it the wrong way, but I'm going on the record right now saying, quite honestly, I don't personally care how employers are impacted by this, because my job is to be a zealous advocate for the injured worker. And most of the time, not all the time, sometimes there are some great employers out there who really care about their injured minority workers. So don't get me wrong, I don't say this across the board, but a lot of times I'm fighting employers and they're spending more money on attorneys, on their own attorneys, to fight these claims than the claim itself would cost them. So yeah, I'm a little bit at times a little bit hostile toward employers. Back to your question though, how's this impacting them? They're loving it, because everything I was describing earlier works to their benefit. We all know about that employers, including myself, we pay into the system. We pay our share of L&I premiums as long as we're operating legal. There are some employers out there, of course, who aren't. But their retrospective ratings benefit as a result of all this over time. The less injured workers filing claims, so in this case, the less minorities or Hispanics that you have filing claims, that is going to work to the financial benefit of employers. The less a client of mine or an injured worker is on time loss, that benefits employers, because time loss really adversely impacts an employer's retro rating and costs them more in premiums. Mental health, again, access to mental health is impacted. So employers are quite happy about this, because your injured worker, minority injured worker, access to mental health benefits has been adversely impacted. And so that results in certainly less expense to the employer overall. And besides time loss, mental health benefits cost employers, or can add a lot of expense to the claim. I think they're necessary. Oftentimes, my clients need them. The injured workers absolutely need them, those benefits, but they drive up the cost of their claim. And that's why you see so many employers pushing for IMEs, independent medical examinations, particularly when it comes to mental health, because it's so costly to them. So how employers are impacted by all this, they want the status quo to remain in place, and they they'd be happy if it went even further and became more restrictive than it's become as of May 15th. I hope that responds to your question.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you, Liana, for such an important question. Let's move on to the next question. And I believe Elena does have a question for Mr. Pollock. Elena, if you're ready, can you please ask your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You are muted now.
Sorry again.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you again for being here with us. Yeah, my question is, what's your involvement exposing the interpreting works they different?
Okay, you're a little bit muffled, and so I hope I heard you correctly, and tell me if I didn't. I think your question was, what is my involvement in exposing the interpreter works data breach? Was that the question?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, you're really muffled there. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm not going to take all the credit for that. I'm going to give her credit where credit is due, but I've certainly ran with it since I learned about it. What we had was on May 16th, a local Mount Vernon physical therapy provider had contracted or consulted with another individual for assistance in implementing the new interpreter work scheduling system, because it was creating a lot of confusion for providers. So this physical therapy provider engaged the services of somebody who had been an interpreter for LNI, an interpreter provider, in assisting them in implementing the new scheduling system. With the click of a button on a Sunday morning on May 16th, all of a sudden, the whole interpreter works system becomes available to this consultant. We're talking about 9,000 some clients, confidential, HIPAA protected medical, mental health records, vocational records, dates of birth, sometimes social security numbers if applicable. All of this, the very information that, can you imagine if a provider were to have a breach, an internal breach in its own office, say a provider with, I don't know, 500 patients, were to have a breach, a cybersecurity breach. The investigation that Labor and Industries would conduct into that medical or mental health or whatever provider would be massive. They would have investigators there where they would be breathing down their throats. They would be threatening their provider credentials, maybe threatening lawsuits, God knows what. So, but here, what I can tell you is I got wind of this, and then another occupational medical provider in my area learned of it, and within the course of the ensuing 3 or 4 days, wrote a letter to LNI and sent it to everybody she could there, and saying, look, I'm an occupational medicine provider here. I've learned of this data breach. I've got all these concerns for my patients, for my practice. What do I do? I'm not comfortable using interpreter works at this point. Matter of fact, effective May 24th, I don't see how I can do that. So she's reaching out to LNI for questions, for guidance. What do I do from here? Getting really nothing in return for assistance. And let me back up a little bit. When the breach first happened, this consultant, interpreter provider turned consultant, immediately panicked. She contacted her husband, who's out fishing out on a boat on Lake Washington. He's a great guy. He also happens to be a cybersecurity genius. Panics and says, oh my God. She does not go into anybody's records, just contacts him, says, get home. You got to help me figure out what to do here. Calls up Interpreting Works, notifies them of the situation. My understanding is Interpreter Works essentially blew her off and made light of it. so then what happened was, this was, of course, reported to Interpreter Works and back to the physical therapy provider in Mount Vernon. Some screenshots were taken, not of confidential injured worker records, but some screenshots were taken to prove that this data breach had in fact occurred. The occupational medical provider I mentioned wrote her letter. LNI is non-responsive. I get wind of it. I then start reaching out to people at LNI myself. I get into contact with a lady by the name of Karen Ahrens at LNI, who is holding herself out to me as conducting an internal investigation into the alleged data breach, calling it alleged. Starts out the first 5 minutes of the conversation with me with what I told her I considered to be Gestapo tactics, saying I'm mostly concerned with how the relationship between the physical therapy provider and this former interpreter, and how they discovered this breach. I'm mostly concerned about that, and Mr. Pollock, your relationship with them as well. And I said, whoa, we're going to stop it right here. I know your tactics. I'm not an LNI provider. You're not going to push me around. Those two did nothing wrong. They were operating under a contract, trying to implement a system that you guys forced upon everybody at the 11th hour. So you're not going to get anywhere with me, and you're not going to threaten them. So that went on for about 5 minutes. She quickly changed her tune when she realized I meant business. And the next 25 minutes of the conversation were quite cordial, and turned to issues such as me asking, the extent of the data breach. Was it a one-time occurrence? Do we have any reason to believe that there's ongoing exposure? And then what's ensued from there? Well, I sent her a follow-up email. Juan I've done copies of all of these emails on Juan. I sent her a follow-up email confirming that the conversation took place. She pointed the finger at Interpreter Works, which led me to propounding upon the state of Washington a number of FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, questions about what type of cybersecurity vetting they did of Interpreter Works in the first place. I've got a list of questions for them a mile long that they've given themselves until July 2nd to respond to me by way of mail. They're not, and I've said, asked them to what extent they've notified the providers, the injured workers, the attorneys' offices, employers, TPAs, all that of these alleged breaches. They haven't answered any of those questions for me. They're probably running it all through the Attorney General's office right now, and supposedly I'm to expect their written responses by July 2nd. And one other thing, before I answer that question, one other thing I've done is attempted to notify every media outlet under the sun about this. But so far, no media agencies have contacted me back.
Wow, that is unbelievable. What you're telling me is you have contacted LNI. They tried to intimidate you. They tried to say, no, we're going to take care of this. We're going to do a solo investigation, an internal investigation right here. And they were dismissing you. When they saw that you were serious, they said, okay, we have to be nice to this guy. However, we're going to do our own little thing at the same time. We're so happy that you are here sharing this experience, because we do have a lot of interpreters there from the other union. Please mute yourself if you're not talking to anyone. But we do have some interpreters that have come to this side of things, interpreting for the LNI system, and they believe a lot of misinformation that unfortunately their own union is saying. So when we have somebody like you with your track record, with your experience, telling everybody here, look, this is no joke. This interpreting works, my language link platform lacks, technical support. It's a mess. It's actually exposing important information. This is not alleged. This is something that happened. I hope that you all understand this. So with that, I'm going to open for all of our board members. If you guys have any questions for Mr. Pollock, we have about 5 minutes. We thank you so much, Mr. Pollock. If anybody from the audience, even though people are just watching right now, this is very intense. But if you guys from the board, you guys have any more questions for Mr. Pollock, now is the time.
I have just one more question. Mr. Pollock, what level would you categorize these HIPAA violations? And also, would you consider any of them potentially criminal? And another question that kind of goes with that, what is the fine? What is the dollar amount per violation? And how many violations do you see possible? So to give us a ballpark figure of what we're talking about here.
Okay. So to your first question, the level of the HIPAA violation, I would say that when it comes to confidential mental health records, I think that's the most egregious if there's anything that's private to anybody. I don't care if you're an injured worker, a minority injured worker, who you are. If there's anything that's sacred and private and that you want to remain confidential, it's your mental health records. So to me, that is the most serious of these HIPAA violations. The fact that mental health records have been compromised. Medical records, there's a reason for HIPAA laws. So what's LI all about? How does an industrial insurance claim and/or occupational disease claim arise or come about? It's by the filing of a report of accident, which deals with medical records. Huge. A lot of people out there, myself included, don't want all of our medical records available for public viewing. So I think it's mental health, and then after that medical, and then it kind of goes in descending order from there. Vocational records have been may have been compromised here. Those obviously can be quite private as well. I think probably the least egregious is maybe I don't know. I was going to say physical therapy, but even those can be pretty. Anyway, the mental health is probably the worst.
All righty, let's move on to the next question. We're almost running out of time for this section, but we want to get in another question by Anastasia here. Go ahead, Anastasia, please, real quick.
You're referring to the question regarding the IMEs. What is your experience, Mr. Pollock, as far as the absence or the absence of interpreting services at IMEs? What is it? What have you seen? How have these panels or these appointments been affected?
Okay, there's a reason that I'm not able to competently answer that at this question. What I can tell you about IME interpreting is this. I've had a problem with IME interpreting before, simply because I've received so many complaints about it, where clients are not comfortable, especially when it comes to mental health IMEs. They're not comfortable disclosing, mental health information to a psychologist or a psychiatrist in the context of an IME interpreter who they've never met, because they don't trust the IME process. They've never met the interpreter, so they have a tough time opening up to the mental health provider. And I can't say blame that on the interpreter. That's just the way the system is. But your question is, I think what your question to me is, since the new system's gone into place, how's that affected IMEs? And I'm not in a position to answer that, and here's why. The earliest turnaround you ever get on an IME is 2 weeks, and right now they're averaging 3 to 4 weeks before we see an IME report come in. We'll do the math there. The new system went into effect May 15th. So I haven't seen an IME report yet that is
Wow.
the product of the new system.
Wow,
Well,
that's great.
I might this week, I could, so.
Yeah. So we want to thank you so much, Mr. Pollock. We want to say we have shared the links to your office and the links to contact you in the chat here and in the comment section. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure from all of us, and I'm sure the audience is appreciating all of this information and what you're doing for injured workers, what you have done for years, and your willingness to take LNI to task and hold them accountable, helping everybody, especially the injured workers, in this situation. So with that said, we want to say thank you so much, and we'll keep on working together and being in touch for the benefit of the LNI industry.
And can I say one thing in closing too, and that is I want to thank you all for your questions, your thoughtful questions this evening, for giving me the opportunity to appear. And I want to brag a little bit about Juan, just a quick minute, just to say this. I've read Juan's work that's been submitted to PERC as a paralegal. I was shocked that it didn't come from an attorney with 20 years of experience. His briefing outshines that of many attorneys I know who have been at it for a long time. And if Juan, if you'll consider going to law school, I've got a job waiting for you, and I'm dead serious.
Wow. Wow. Did you hear all that?
Well, wow. Thank you for the compliment. You know, it's not easy to do this. We have a really good team right here. I cannot take all the credit. You see all these guys right here. They all chime in with things that we have to say. Yes, I do prepare the legal briefs and get it together, but it's with all of their input and some other people as well that may not be in our board, but are volunteers and help us in any way they can. So thank you, Mr. Pollock. I may have to take you up on that offer. Maybe later. We'll see.
And thank you to all of you guys too. Yeah, well, you're all a team, and I just can't thank you enough. And my clients and on behalf of the injured workers as well. So.
Keep up the great work, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That was Mr. Pollock. We're going to move into, we're going to be talking, please stick around. We're going to be talking about the election. We're going to be talking about the motion for temporary relief. Yes, whoopsie leaked that it was denied, but they're not telling you the whole story. So we have it here. I was actually working on a video before this live stream to put it out. I did have some problems with YouTube, but a video will go out talking about these things in detail, but we prepared a presentation to talk about these things. But before we go there, let's talk about how we triggered the election. We're all going to chime in right here, but I'm gonna have Anastasia right here go in with this because he's being hyped. Anastasia is my hype man right here, man. Go ahead and take it over.
No. You don't need any hype at all. You're the real deal. And the proof is the results. From the very beginning, as we mentioned before, and along the way, we have been labeled as inexperienced and sore losers, and what turns out to be completely mistaken, because an actual attorney here has just given you the ultimate compliment, and we have just triggered an election. So if this is what inexperienced and being a sore loser means, then by all means, everybody come join the sore losers and the inexperienced ones, because we are moving ahead. We are in the lead. And I want to give my colleagues an opportunity also to say their part, because everyone here should be very proud of themselves, of everything that you've done, collaborated with each other, the effort. And this is how things are accomplished, by putting all of our heads together, our ideas, and the results are that we have done something historical, and we're about to do something even more historical very soon.
Yeah, definitely, man. If you guys wanna chime in now, any of you guys, if you wanna say your piece before we move on to the next segment right here.
I want to thank everyone who took the time to fill out the card and send it to us. I don't know if you guys can hear me now. Okay. Everybody who took the time to and the laws, the cards that we got at the end, that made it possible to go to the next step. So for now, what we need is to continue working hard or harder to make this whole thing happen, because we can say that we are halfway, but we still need all your help to make it to the other end.
Yes, definitely. That's exactly right. Any of you guys want to be next?
I just want to say that this is like a light in the tunnel. And I remember when the dates were given and the deadlines were coming in, you could almost see all my colleagues, the interpreters, just not feeling too good about it. But this hard work is really paying off, and we should stick together and keep on fighting.
Yeah. Liana?
Well, I pretty much agree with everyone. I mean, right now it's up to everyone else to give us their support. Anyone that hasn't yet, that's what we're going to be needing of next. So hopefully, they see that the efforts that have been made for this, for this election, upcoming election. So hopefully, they vote for us. That's what we need.
Thank you, Liana. Vero?
I think it's just important to stress that by signing your card, you are not an actual member. It's just showing your support towards us. So signing our card does not make you a Washington Interpreters member. It just shows your support, and support is what we need right now.
Yes, definitely. All righty. So, let's go into the next topic, which is WFSE misleading interpreters. Anastasia, man, this is your time to go ahead and go in, because I know you have a lot to say when it comes to this. I know that it's 7:49. We do have a short presentation about the motion, the legal process, the unfair labor practice, but please go ahead. We can't listen to you.
Thank you. I'm always on mute now. I was saying that you should keep me in the larger frame with everyone. I mean, I don't want to hog the camera all the time. I think I feel better looking at everybody too. But whatever's better. Addressing the question here. Yeah, I mean, we know that WFSE does not appreciate that we have surpassed the 30%. Along the way, there was workshops that WFSE finally was able to provide to their members after we have provided numerous multiple credit workshops and webinars. And along the way, they were saying that we probably had 9%, 10% of interest cards. They were saying that we were just not going to pull it off. We didn't have the support, which is very important with these type of movements, to have the support. There's a clear line, there's a clear indication that interpreters, the majority of interpreters, want an election to happen. This is not my opinion. This is not anyone else's opinion here. This is the interpreters, the community throughout the entire state. More than 30% of them. And I believe we have up to 45, 50%, if you ask me. And if I could show you the sheets, then one day I will, I think. But for now, we're over the 30%, a very, very strong lead. But, for some reason or the other, our opponent believes that they can derail this election from you, even though the majority of the people are screaming for an election. Okay, WFSE is actually appealing, this decision. They're actually going around PERC. They're completely, disregarding, what PERC has decided. This is an unprecedented situation. It's never occurred before, I believe. And they think that because they are WFSE, that they can, do whatever they want. Well, guess what? They're not going to do what they want. This is not about what we want. This is about what the majority of interpreters throughout the state of Washington wants. And what they want is an election you shall have.
Yes, yes. And in that note, I'm going to share with you guys a presentation on our legal process. And what WFSE is not showing you, because they want to show you the apparent bad news. But, you know, they're not going to be telling you the whole truth. We have exposed this before. They always tell you what they think you want to hear and what they want you to believe. So give me a minute right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sharing a presentation with, you know, PERC's decision, but also PERC's notices from the executive director, so you understand exactly what's going on. We have nothing to hide. We have triggered this election, so this is happening. Hold on a second here, please. Let's see. If you give me a minute here, I'll have it ready in no time. Please bear with us, and thank you for your patience. Let's see. Yeah, it's unbelievable the amount of misinformation and what's really transpiring, especially for the last couple of days. The latest video that we put out, the reactions from people, what people have been telling us, you know, needs to happen, what they want to see, but also what they have been hearing from WFSE. So let me open this presentation that it's not cooperating as I wanted to. Okay, just bear with me on this one. Okay, I think we have it here. Let me see. I'm gonna share it now again. We are in the process of updating this computer too. So this is something that's gonna make things easier in a way. Let me see. This is the presentation. Boom.
Nice.
You can see it, right?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay. Let me see. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
So this is a picture that says interpretation language. That's what you can see, right?
Yeah, that's what we
Okay.
see.
So you guys, everybody listening to this, after we released the first video with the series titled "Working Under the LNI System" with Leticia Mares testifying about her experience, this is what we were shared today by an interpreter. Looks like the My Language Link, aka Interpreting Work System, already had enough backlash and enough, interpreters frustrated with their information being put out there without their consent. So it looks like they have removed the comment sections for their bookings. You know, this is of course to be confirmed, but what we do here, when we get some evidence, we do not wait, we share it with you. By the way, anything that we get in our inbox is fair game. So this is what we're doing. There's nothing nobody else can do to stop us. Here, by the way, I got this email from the YouTube support team for our channel, the personal channel that I've been running for 3 years. And it looks like, if you see the underlined red part here, that somebody filed a privacy complaint. An individual did this regarding the last video. So we're hitting a nerve. WFSE Local 1671 and maybe Interpreting Works, Marisa Giglio, whoever did this, let me let you know that as you see right here, look at the bolded letters. It will not automatically result in your video being restricted, and no associated penalty has been applied to your video at this time. So I have been in contact with YouTube, man. Whatever we get in my inbox, in the union's inbox, documents, what we share, it's our property. Okay, and unless it says from the people that sent it, confidential, do not share, guess what? Legally, we could do whatever we want. So I really feel appalled by the level of ignorance that your people in your legal team have. And I'm not saying WFSE lawyers, I'm saying whoever advised this person to do this. It's kind of embarrassing at this point. Now, when it comes to the motion for temporary relief, this is what we received on June 3rd. Okay, this is the decision. As you know, I was in Yakima, the Tri-Cities area, talking to interpreters, visiting interpreters' houses. And so we didn't have like a lot of time to put a really well put together video. But now there is a video that was going to go out before this live stream, but it's going to go out afterwards when we finish this. But this is the notice that we got. And if you can read right here, it says, please concentrate on the underlined parts. It says that we filed the unfair labor practice on March 30th, which is actually the legal process that matters. You know, it also says right here that we filed the motion for temporary relief on April 20, and then, you know, we were denied the motion. But the motion itself was a strategy to actually scale back the implementation of the scheduling system faster than when we actually have a hearing for the unfair labor practice. So it was really always a 50-50 proposition. So here, the underlined parts, it says right there that the commission grants this motion for temporary relief whenever they see it that it is appropriate, okay? If you read at the last paragraph right here, PERC doesn't agree with the motion at this time. They said that we have not shown that the allegations would not be fairly, you know, relieved with the remedies from the unfair labor practice in a future hearing. So what they're saying is pretty much, you know, we're gonna move on to a hearing. So look at these, again, the underlined parts here. It says, should a violation be found, it is possible to base an order of back pay on the average number of shifts worked by each provider in a period leading up to the alleged allegation. So that's what they're saying right here. If you read the last paragraph, it says if an unfair labor practice violation is found, the remedies could include, for example, an order returning to the status quo, which is what we want because we're not really against a portal or a scheduling system itself. We're against the implementation in the middle of an election without our input. For 3 years, WFSE has been doing that, and it's just a shame, okay? Now, in conclusion, this is very important, and the commission is actually letting you know the commission is not prejudging the merits of the underlying case, which is the unfair labor practice. We express no opinion on the employer's arguments that are more responsive to whether an unfair labor practice has occurred. We hold only that the union failed to establish that the bargaining unit would suffer irreparable harm, okay? If the status quo is not maintained until the unfair labor practice proceeding is completed. So we have showed the commission a lot of affidavits, an example of how we consider to be this irreparable harm. I do not have a problem with them not wanting to touch this at this time and just sending it back to PERC, because guess what? PERC has worked with us since day one. We do not question their decisions, unlike WFSE, like you're gonna see later. Now, this was from last Friday, June 4th, okay? And this is the executive director's decision on the blocking charge. So the blocking charge is nothing more than PERC needs to decide if we have an election, if they're going to be working on the unfair labor practice, having a hearing at the same time. Usually when you have an election, PERC's policy is that they block the election or suspend it until the unfair labor practice is decided. Now, the nice thing about this is that, of course, you have WFSE Local 1671 leaders misinforming people. They were sending emails and Facebook posts saying that, oh, all 3 unions or whatever, which we're going to be talking on that later, are going to be in the election because they want that scenario, by the way, and we won't have an election until the legal process is actually determined. That's not the case. We're going to have the chance to submit arguments, and they could run the election and the ULP, unfair labor practice, at the same time if we present the arguments in favor of that. They could do that at any time. Now, if you see right here, this is just giving you a history again. Anytime we receive a document from PERC, it tells you the whole history of how we got here. And it says right there that on March 30th, we did file a complaint, the unfair labor practice, because of the implementation of the scheduling system during the election. And it also says that we filed a motion for temporary relief. And on June 3rd, the last paragraph, read this very carefully. It says June 3rd, 2021, the commission issued a decision denying the motion for temporary relief. But if you read the last sentence right here, it says what? The matter will now proceed to be assigned to an examiner to conduct a hearing. You see it right there. In the video that I'm posting later, you're going to have links to all of this. I know that WFSE provided a link. What they don't do is explain this to you. Now, they were telling you that, ooh, the scheduling system is here to stay. How so if it's not being determined yet, knuckleheads? How so? How are you determining the future? It's like you have tarot cards there. You know, you like to tell the future like you know anything, but you don't know anything. And that's
Hold on, Juan. Wait a minute. They do know everything. They knew that we didn't have enough cards. They knew that we didn't know what we were doing. They knew that we were not going to have an election. I think they know everything, or not.
Yeah, that was probably an alternative universe, like the Avengers. It's unbelievable. But hey, let's keep on moving this. It says that on May 25th, the underlined part again, it says the representation case administrator, which is Dario De La Rosa, informed the parties, and this is clarifying that email. He informed the parties that the sufficiency of the showing of interest submitted by Washington interpreters was sufficient and that the matter would move forward to an election. But look at the underhanded strategy by WFSE, because they're so afraid of us. It says on May 27th, 2021, the Washington Federation of State Employees filed an appeal contesting the agency's decision that the showing of interest was sufficient and would proceed to an election. And now the appeal is pending before the commission. So as you see right there, this organization, WFSE, now this is right down embarrassing. And I know that sometimes you don't like to hear that kind of emotion and language. We're fighting for our lives here, our jobs. And so, you know, be ready to hear this, WFSE leaders and anybody listening to this. These people boast of being the biggest union, having all the resources in connection with their friends, politicians, which they pay their campaigns using your dues without permission. Where is all that power when you're afraid to compete with us, the quote-unquote little guys that are inexperienced? Why are you hiding? Why are you running from us? This is like a boxing match, and you just forfeited. You're like, no, I don't want any part of this. So they're not telling you that they appealed the decision because they could not get 30%. We did get 30% and then some. They lie to you because that's what they do. These leaders, they're liars. And I know you don't like to hear it. Listen to it again. You lie. That's what you do. And it's proven here again. They are appealing this election because they don't want it to happen. They want to be dismissed with this election so they could get a lot of people that are getting jobs into the scheduling system and influence them. And they're training interpreters to show up at workplaces and become activists. Okay, bullying providers and other people. And this kind of conflict, pitting us against each other, that's what they do when they call themselves a union. It's a mess. Before I move on, I want to tell you, if you are a DSHS interpreter, guess what? I am too. I've been a DSHS interpreter before. I'm just not a part of the union. We're not against you. We want you to work. We want you to keep your scheduling system if that's what the majority decides in a union later, but we want to be able to also contract directly. Now, for the people that may be thinking that we don't know what we're doing, look, we filed for the election on November 20th. We were supposed to be dismissed. We're here. We're having the election, and the biggest union is crying for help. Pathetic. Now, if you don't believe me, you know, this is just grasping for straws. They know what's going on, but they're just buying time, okay? It says right here, in the event the Washington Federation of State Employees appeal is unsuccessful and the matter is returned to the representation case administrator for further proceeding, the parties will be asked to provide responses as to whether the WAC blocking charge rule should be applied in this case. You see, once again, coming from the executive director, Mike Sellers, WFSE was telling you, oh, a PERC must resolve the legal process before we have an election. What is the executive director telling you here? When the case comes back, because make no mistake, the commission will dismiss their appeal like it's a joke, okay? So when the case comes back, we will have responses and the chance to submit arguments to see if the blocking charge rule should be applied. It's not automatic. So once again, I know We speak with facts, okay, not with misinformation and agendas. Now, this is the last slide before we move on with the program, okay? Look at the underlying part here. This is the WAG, the law governing this process and the showing of interest. I want you to read with me 2B right here, the underlined section. It says, the question of whether a showing of interest requirement for a petition has been satisfied is a matter for administrative determination by the agency and may not be litigated at any hearing. Once again, may not be what? Litigated at any hearing. Wolfsy, do you speak English? Can you read?
They need an interpreter, man. They need an interpreter.
Probably you need an interpreter. It's a joke. You guys are pathetic because you're not.
I would like to add. Sorry to interrupt you here, but I would like to add something else based on what I just heard you say. You said that Wolfsy fears us. I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I don't think they fear us. This board, they don't fear us. What they really fear is independent interpreters waking up, the majority of them, and choosing a different labor organization to represent them because they're sick and tired of the same old, same old. I think that is the fear. You know, we're just common, everyday interpreters trying to, make a living, jumping through hoops, obstacle after obstacle. But what they really do fear is when a lot of people come together and say, you know what? You did a horrible job for HCA interpreting. You did a horrible transition over there. You did a horrible, pandemic. You allowed people to outsource our jobs to another country, to another state. ULS is now paying $18 an hour for OPI. What happened to $60? What happened to being a powerful advocate for interpreters? No. You're not an advocate for interpreters, Wolfsy. You're an advocate for politicians. You're an advocate for politicians. You're an advocate for the governor. I'm sorry to say, but I've never donated $1 million to the governor. And if I had him, I wouldn't give it to him. And when we represent you legally, we will not be doing that at all. So yes, their fear is when you interpreters decide for yourselves and decide for better leadership. That is the real fear.
Yeah, man. And so, we are advocating for a real dual system without restrictions. So they are sending emails trying to twist what the law, SB 6245 from 2018 says. I remember being instrumental, recognized by LNI people, introducing amendments that gave LNI 3 choices with the dual system. So a dual system is not a dual system just because LNI can contract with interpreters, but only for 20% of appointments, emergency care and urgent care. That's not a dual system. That's still a restriction. We'll see people. That's still a restriction because you don't want us to have the freedom to contract directly. That is not a dual system. We are advocating for a real dual system. Okay, even though it sounds controversial when we say we want to scale back the implementation, we are not against the portal. We're against what's being done without our permission and without a union being established for the LNI interpreters to decide on better working conditions for ourselves. That's what we're against, and we are always going to have this energy. We're just getting started, baby. You cannot stop us. I mean, get it through your thick skull. We're here to stay. We fear no one. Get it. Now, when it comes to the next point, Anastasio and the rest of the board, it says right here, WFSE members unhappy with leadership. Do you want to add to that, please?
Sure. So whenever we say something here, we're always, doing our best to be transparent. We're doing our best to be accurate more than anything else. So when we speak, we're not just throwing darts at you. We're not just trying to be aggressive for no reason. We're speaking because we know what we're talking about. And in my case in particular, I was with WFSE. I was a WFSE member for almost 6 years. Like I've said before many times, I've participated at every level along with my colleagues here. We've been in many of their whatever you call it, committees, and we've ran for office and we've held office and the whole shebang. So we've been there for years, and quite frankly, the only reason why we even joined is because we didn't like our working conditions and we didn't know who to go to. We didn't know who to talk to, who was going to be held accountable. And what I did was I had to pay to become a member of WFSE, Local 1671, just to go and ask, hey, where did my mileage go? Who the heck negotiated away our healthcare authority mileage? Who thought that was a great idea? Okay, to begin with, no interpreter in the HCA arena has ever had enough work. You're lucky to have 2 to 3 assignments per day. If you're lucky, you get a good day with 5 assignments, 6 maybe, but that's when you're lucky. In general, you got 2 to 3 assignments per day. And what happens is that is not their priority. That is not WFSE's priority. You having enough work is not, they don't care. They only care about the fill rate. And that's why today, Mrs. Gilio, Marissa Gilio, owner of Interpreting Works, released some information saying that they have 90 or above 90% fill rate for the new LNI appointments. Now, we're gonna do a public records request, okay? And I hope that she's telling us the truth, because when we discover what the real numbers are, you know, we're gonna show everybody what those real numbers were for June or May, and we're gonna tell you the truth of what's really going on. But back to the issue that we've been there, done that for years, and I can tell you right now, a lot of people within Local 1671 are completely tired of their leadership, and they've never provided any real answers. They've always been given, I want to keep it clean here, but you know what you've been given. And I've talked to you, I known you, I worked with you, and you are sick and tired like I was, except that I got out and I did something about it. Now, this is your chance. Okay? This is your opportunity to stand up for yourselves, to stand up to the big guy. Okay? This is yours for you to shape however you see fit, not however that leadership tells you it's going to be. So this is your freedom. This is your opportunity to fight for your freedom.
Thank you, Anastasio. That was powerful. One of our board members, Veronica Mendez, she had to go. She has an emergency situation. She had a testimony that she was going to share with us about WFSE and what they are doing to her. But we have Alex here, another one of our board members, our media director, and I'm going to showcase him here because he has something very interesting to tell you about QR codes and his experience using the Interpreting Works system.
Hello, everyone. As you heard, of course, a lot of people have complaints about the system, and there are others that they feel comfortable with it. But my experience, and I could tell you real quick before I talk about the QR codes, is that first of all, right out of the bat, the system is buggy. So we are in agreement. It was implemented prematurely, and I have spoken with other interpreters where they have shown me the portal compared to mine, and even I spoke to another one just today. She was having the same problems as I was. That we only see the most 3 appointments when others they could show maybe as much as 10. So that means that we are all not seeing the same thing. I have spoken with interpreters on the phone, and they said, I could see these appointments. Do you see them? We do not, and we are in the same area. So the system is buggy, and compared to other agencies that are already in Washington, and they have similar systems, the refresh rate, and for those that don't know what that means, is that you are able to see the appointments come and go in real time. But with this new system, you need to press refresh every time. Every time you become a slave of your phone, of the computer, everywhere you go. So it's really tiresome. But regarding the QR system, and of course, there are some places that you might go for an appointment, and they might not have the QR system available for you. It's too new for them. They don't know what to do. Of course, the IW would tell you, oh, just print the voucher and take it with you. Of course, you don't know which clinics will have this problem. So you have to do it every time. And of course, they could fill up the voucher if they want to. However, the voucher has a QR code. And this is the thing that I was sharing with my colleague. You could scan that QR code from the voucher that you printed. So there is a problem here. The QR code was made for two reasons. One, to make it convenient for the interpreters and the clinic, check in, check out. But at the same time, it was a system of control to stay the time that you came in and the time that you came out. But however, if you print out the voucher and it has the QR code, guess what you can do? You scan that QR code and you check in, and you scan that QR code and you check out. There is no way in the system that you can prove that you actually check in at the time that you came in and you check out at the time that you came out.
Wow. Super interesting. So much for having an accountable system, right?
See, the system regarding it has too many bugs, and it was just forced into us to, and you guys mentioned it, just to pressure us, just to I don't know, it's just stabbing the knife on us interpreters, just to take over, just for the reason of taking over. But the system itself is not really working. If you work out the details, it has too many bugs. It's not a convenient if you wait out the pros and cons.
So Alex, I would like to say just something real quick in regards to what you just said. Again, with my experience at WFSE, with my experience at bargaining a contract for interpreters before, everything that you just mentioned is fertile ground, okay, to justify the need of a collective bargaining agreement, a contract. So when everything goes wrong, which by the way, they caused everything to go wrong, okay, this transition prematurely, everything, they anticipate it. It's collateral damage. They want all these problems to be rampant all over. For what? So that they can come in and say, we know how to fix this. We have to do a collective bargaining agreement. We'll define an hour, the assignment to appointment being 1 hour. It won't be no need for the QR code anymore. Or if it is, it's going to be standardized to an hour. Everything that goes over, it's going to be the QR code. Now, I don't want to give them any more of my ideas because I already gave them a healthcare idea and they ran and they took it, which I'm proud of. I'm proud that they did go and follow through with the healthcare idea, but they don't know the rest of that information. We tried to amend that and we have the solution for that problem. That's why we don't have healthcare still, everyone. But back to the what you just mentioned, not only is that unaccountable, but at the same time, what's the alternative? They're tracking us. They want to track us 24/7. How am I going to feel comfortable with them knowing my global positioning everywhere I am, in my living room, where I go have coffee? Why should they know my every move? What, that's just creepy. I've always said that's the ideal word. It's creepy. But people are without knowing, they're just accepting because they don't have a choice. They think that things are good. But in my 6 years over there and working with healthcare authority jobs, what ends up happening is the same thing. The fill rate is their priority, meaning they're going to bring in a ton of interpreters. They don't care if you have 1 job a day, 2 jobs a day, or 3. They only care whether those jobs get filled, and you are going to find out that later you don't have enough income. You don't. Because there's too many interpreters getting paid $60 an hour. Soon it's going to be maybe $70 an hour or whatever, but you won't have any more than 1 or 2 jobs. So who cares? I mean, people don't see that. You might be celebrating right now, but it's temporary. We've been there and done that.
You are actually correct, Anastasio, and you went straight to the point. you create a problem, and as you have seen the emails from WFSE, and you scroll down at the bottom, they kind of tell you, this is the problem. We can help you with that. We can help you with this. This is a problem that they actually created. And now we are with a system that it put us at disadvantage. And like you say, they don't really care. They don't really care whether you are really making money and making a living. They don't really care about the patients. They only care about what they get. They only care about union dues. That's the only thing. It's everything politically driven.
Another thing you should ask yourself, and I'm speaking to the general public here or our interpreter colleagues, you should wonder why WFSE is supporting this interpreting agency so much. In the beginning, they just didn't have a clue who they were. Then we explained to you how they've always known each other. And now that this agency has taken the contract, you don't hear WFSE ever saying, well, maybe these interpreters have a point. Maybe there's room for improvement. No. Aren't we all glad that the scheduling system's here and that our interpreters have work? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? A year from now, if this system continues to be there, you're not going to have enough work and you're going to leave the field. All good interpreters leave. It's a revolving door. They have to go look for other employment because there's never enough work. This is what's going to happen. Meanwhile, they are the ones in control. And they don't care. As long as new interpreters come in and pay them their dues, they'd rather you leave and get less picky people come in and do what they say. That's what they want to happen. But guess what? This time you have a bunch of lions. You have a whole bunch of lions right here standing up for you and really advocating for you. Look at that one right there. And we're not going to let them do what they want with you. That is the difference.
I'm really happy with this live stream. Before we do the closing remarks, we have Elena and Liana, and I know that I have showcased before kind of like Liana's experience the other day. But why don't you ladies take a couple of minutes each before I do share the conclusion to share, you, Liana and Elena, kind of like your experience with this scheduling system, what you hear from interpreters in your area. Let's start with Elena, if you're so kind to let us know what your experience has been there in the Tri-Cities area and what you hear interpreters telling you about this.
Well, hopefully you can hear me. I've been covering not so many appointments with them because I've been doing most of my different things right now. But yesterday I went to one clinic and I asked them how everything was going. And they said that 50% of their jobs are not getting filled. And they don't know why, because no one is getting the jobs. And the funniest thing here is that I live only like 5 minutes away from that clinic. And I know that the clinic is pretty busy. So I don't see none of those jobs pending on the portal. So I don't understand how, they're not having interpreters and not having jobs. So I went to a different clinic today and I asked some questions. How is everything going? How is the interpretation going? Or the new interpreters because they didn't know there were coming so many interpreters. And it was the same thing. They're like, I've been posting all my jobs, putting everything on the portal, but only 40 or 55% of the jobs are getting covered. So it's the same thing. The way we take jobs is like in a text message, and as soon as you click on the job, it says that it's gone. But we do not understand what's going on with all those jobs. I had a call this morning from one of my, I used to help this patient, and she was telling me that she didn't have an interpreter. I was like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. I wish I could help you, but she said that there was no one. So that job was never pending on my portal. We don't understand what's really going on. Like I said, there's a lot of clinics that the jobs are not getting covered, and we don't have jobs.
Thank you, Elena. That's the sad reality that's happening everywhere. Liana, can you share your experience leading up to that event, and actually what you see lately with interpreters and your experience with interpreting works? So then we're going to do the closing remarks. Go ahead.
Well, yes, I think you pretty much said everything very well in that last video. But yes, I've been hearing the same thing in a lot of the clinics and a lot of the patients that I used to help out before, that they don't know when their next appointments are, or if they're made, they go in a certain day and they don't have interpreters. They've been having a very difficult time scheduling their their clinics. For example, even MRIs or something that's not within the clinic itself. There's nobody that can help them with if they don't have attorneys. They've been finding it to be very difficult. So many of them, as I've known before, have had their cases closed. You know, their claims get closed because they really are lost. It's a lot of confusion and between them as well. It's just it's bad. And then not only that, but we also been seeing that they haven't really gotten really good. I mean, how can I say? They're, I guess, good interpreters, but they don't really know the system. So they're there to, I mean, they're on the dot. You know, if they need anything further, if they need to make any more appointments, unfortunately, many of them don't stay and help them out with that. So again, the patients are always just stuck. So, I mean, just a lot of bad reviews on interpreter works. I personally haven't, I'm not signed in with them. So I really can't say how it's working because I wasn't planning to sign in with them. I'm hoping that we win and continue working like we have before, but I don't think I will sign up for them. So that's it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Unmute.
Okay, I'm mute now. I was muted. So this has been great. I really love these live streams. And, you know, we're going to just touch really quick on this 1 or 2 minutes, Anastasio. If you want to share, you know, what we have been talking about of how WFSE cannot keep jobs in our state. So this is information that we're going to continue to share with you through emails and videos. But Anastasio, can you already touched a little bit about it, but can you as an interpreter that was part of their union for many years, explain to LNI interpreters in a minute or less, hopefully, how is it that they not only destroyed their own system and promised they created a problem, got a reaction, everybody upset, and they're offering a fake solution, which is, you know, flooding the system and tricking interpreters where when they cannot keep their own jobs from the HCA contract in our state. Can you explain that, please?
Well, yeah, you put it very nicely there. But before that, I also had to have my little input on the new system. I haven't taken a job ever since the transition. As a matter of fact, 2 days before the transition, I stopped interpreting for LNI patients. The reason for that is because all the patients that I had that I was interpreting for had already been assigned to the system without even informing me. So they didn't give me the courtesy, any of the clinics, they didn't give me the courtesy to tell me, hey, you know, after the transition, we're going to put all the patients into, no. I know that we can even still interpret for them now. But they were all basically stripped from me. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be, you know, crying over stuff like that. So I ran into our own colleagues covering my old patients. And I was like, you know what? You stay. And, you know, we have proof of that because a lot of them are hearing us or seeing us right now. You know, we got to the appointments at the same time. And I tell them, you take your job, go ahead. And off we go. But that's been my experience. The reason why I haven't and I don't want to sign up with the system or take jobs with the system, better said, because I just don't trust them paying me. I think it's foolish to go and cover an assignment even 5-10 minutes away from where you live if you don't have the certainty that you're going to get paid. And what exactly are you guys getting paid? I mean, I see that the appointments are 45 minutes. 60 minutes. I mean, if they even take that long, what are you going to go for? $30? What are you going to go for? $25? $23? I mean, I don't even understand how that is. So maybe I should wait a little while before passing judgment. But I'm not going to go anywhere. My time is extremely valuable where I don't have that certainty of getting paid. And I don't recommend anybody does. I would wait until we have a contract properly negotiated and where you are protected. And when you show up and get paid. So that's my suggestion to our fellow colleagues right now. As to the point that you brought up earlier, well, we have shown everybody, you have shown everybody within other videos that people can go back and search on our YouTube channel. We have shown everyone how through one lingua, which is the same parent or an offshoot of all these other agencies. One lingua, was trying to be stuck into WFSE, or they were trying to stick it in there, and they were trying to take over some of the jobs from like 6-7 years ago. And, that failed because some of us, including myself, were, raising our concerns to the conflict or the potential conflict of interest that would become. We were asking, why are we lobbying to remove CTS language link back then and to replace it with this one lingua? Who is this one lingua? And why are we replacing CTS? I mean, CTS was a robot. They didn't care about us, but at least they paid us on time and we had sufficient work, give or take, we had sufficient work. I mean, I'm not going to say I was satisfied. It could be better, but at least they operated and you knew what to expect from them. But this union, WFSE, lobbied to remove them, to replace them. And this is why Universal is here now, because they pressed the legislature and pressed the healthcare authority so much that they removed CTS when their contract was to be renewed. They were turned down. But that's the beginning. They created this problem or made it worse, because they're always trying to get someone that they know to take over the contract. And a lot of people out there, a lot of agency owners, and I mean big agency owners, I don't mean the small people around us that have 5-10 people. I'm talking about the big ones that have over 100, 250 interpreters in our area or in your area. They're the ones that know what it takes to handle these contracts. They know that an agency is supposed to provide you benefits and workers' compensation benefits, medical, all this stuff. If this agency is paying you every 2 weeks, they are your employer, not L&I. No, this agency that pays you and deposits you money into your account, they're your employer, and they're the ones that owe us medical coverage, by the way. And that's going to be, further down the line. But I digress somewhat here. The issue is that WFSE has always been behind these changes, causing obstacles, difficulties, transitions. And we all know the story of the interpreter who passed away during one of those transitions right here from Yakima. This was caused by you, WFSE. You got blood on your hands and you know it. So now you want to impose more transitions, which you think are beneficial to interpreters. But in reality, in a couple of more months, when more interpreters come into the fold, a lot of the interpreters are going to be like, what's going on here? We don't have a lot of work. Who do we complain to? Well, you're lucky. You're very lucky. You're going to have us right here. You're going to have us to complain to, and we're going to be stepping up and advocating for you and making sure that you get paid on time, making sure that you get paid what you deserve, and making sure you get your mileage reimbursement back, because that's something else that other union negotiated away or gave away just because a politician or someone at the ACA said, you know what, they should interpret. They shouldn't be paid to drive. That's the mentality that they have because they are not interpreters. Everyone here is an interpreter. That's why we think like interpreters, because we understand you. We know what it takes to get from one assignment to the other, and we know what it takes to work 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and get paid for one, or to be requested for 3 hours and get paid for one. We know that. So, we have to demand respect. Let me repeat that. We interpreters have to demand respect, not ask for it. No one gives you anything in this world. You got to demand it. And right here, this group is ready to fight for you and make sure that we get that respect so that people don't take your time, lightly or for granted. So back to the how WFSE originated all this problem. Well, now we're here. They passed legislation. It's the law. And they, influence L&I to pick one of the three options, 1, 2, or 3, dual system, scheduling system, direct billing system. Well, of course, they said, we'll go with this, scheduling system. And they claim to call it, as my colleague Juan said, a dual system, but we all know that it isn't. I am for a dual system. The majority of us here are for a dual system. We want those interpreters who think that it's convenient to use the scheduling system to, by all means, use it. I'm glad that you're getting paid $60 an hour and that a machine or an agency is doing it for you. I love it. I'm glad that you're happy, and we're going to protect all of that. What I also want for you, personally speaking, is the option to bill directly, because some of the problems that WFSE has caused and brought upon themselves is that when the pandemic hit, all the jobs got put onto the universal system. And guess what? They were all told, go home, do not work in person. We're afraid for you. We want to keep you safe. Go home and we'll work from there. Well, we know what happened, right? A lot of those jobs were not on the scheduling system. They got offshored, put into the CTS, Language Link, Lion Bridge, and God knows where else. So what happened to you? In that particular moment, I heard the screams of people. How do we get unemployment? How do we get out of this? Where do we get jobs? How do we get paid? And who do we talk to? That's when it was even more difficult. Independent contractors were not even eligible to get unemployment. Miraculously, right? Everybody gets unemployment now, whether you're an independent contractor or an employee. Great. But things can change on a blink of an eye. So that's why I'm telling everyone, do not repeat the same mistake twice. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Learn from the past, because all the eggs were in the scheduling system universal, and we got our jobs outsourced. Let's not put all of our eggs in interpreting works. Let's keep both systems operating at the same time in case things happen, or if you need to generate your own type of business where other interpreters just don't want to go or cover. This is common sense. This is what we're bringing to the table.
Well said, Anastasio. Thank you so much. We're going to end it here, but I want to say a few words before we go. We are in campaign mode right now, as you have noticed. I want to thank Anastasio, Elena, Mr. Pollock is listening to this. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for sharing with us your experience. Thank you for the nice audience that we have. Thank you for listening, sharing the links, texting me privately. Where can I see this? Thank you. I know that many of you are camera shy, but we're going to keep on having interviews and testimonials from you to showcase to everyone, to show your experiences with this scheduling system. Even if they are positive or negative, we want to hear from you. We want to create a healthy conversation to fix this. Now, when it comes to the situation in the L&I landscape, WFSE says that we're fractured. Yes, we were not united because we didn't need to look out for our jobs. We didn't know that WFSE for 10 years was planning to take over our industry without being the legal representative of L&I workers as interpreters. But now that that's the situation, we have to make a decision. We cannot have 3-4 unions competing in the election, especially people that clearly do not have a chance to make it. You will only slow us down. We have the lead. We filed for representation first. We've always had more than the 30%. The list wasn't showing it because it was inaccurate. Now that it is, PERC says, yes, in fact, you have the 30%. We're going to have an election. So WFSE wants a lot of competition and to ultimately dismiss this election because they don't want you to be represented unless they are in control. Anastasio already exposed it. Now, what we're fighting here for is bigger than this. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but I could tell you this. Personally, I see this as a bigger agenda from government entities to strip you from your rights to contract directly, to have the freedom to choose your schedule, to work the way you see it fit, and for patients to drop their cases because they won't have the interpreters that have provided continuity of care for them that they trust. L&I will save money when patients drop right and left. Interpreters, like Anastasio explained, will have a revolving door effect where they'll find something else to do. But those new interpreters that are inexperienced, that never made 50, 60 bucks an hour, they'll think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it's not. This industry needs saving, and we're here fighting for you. And I want to encourage those of you little groups that are encouraging rumors. I do not make decisions for LNI. We don't here in Washington Interpreters. We do not work for LNI. We're not senators. We're not politicians. We advocate. We, in fact, have amended this bill to provide options for everyone. So please stop spreading misinformation and rumors that we sold out or whatever. Stop it. It's just pure gossip. And we don't need that right now. You have the freedom to do that. But if you keep on doing that, you're not helping, especially when you're not doing anything, only running your little mouth. We need unity, but we're not going to be afraid to call out people that cause dissension and problems. We have the lead. We'll defeat WFSE. WFSE does not want to see us in the election because we'll hand this L to them with a hell of a shellacking. So please support us. You find the links in the description box to sign the card. We're still collecting cards because, like I said before, we never know what could happen. Thank you so much for being in this live stream with us tonight. And wait for the video that's going to come right after this, possibly tonight. That's going to be posted showing the legal process with more detail, explaining what happened to the motion and how the unfair labor practice is still playing out. Thank you so much. You guys want to say goodbye?
Thank you, everyone, for just continue fighting for this because this is our right. So, have a good night.
Anastasia? Okay.
This is just the beginning. This is just another part of this journey. We do appreciate all the support that we received throughout the year and before. There's a lot of unsatisfied customers everywhere. And this is your shot. We have put it on a silver platter for you to grab and take and run with. So I look forward to speaking and seeing more people at local meetings, at webinars and live streams. We'll be answering more questions soon. And go Washington Interpreters.
Thank you, guys. You have a great rest of your night. And God bless. We'll see you in the next one.